Welcome back to the LCS studio where Fnatic are up 2-0 versus H2K. And be sure to join us for the last post-game lobby of the season after the series as we look ahead towards Worlds in China. But for now, we still need to decide which team will go. Fnatic has the edge. They have blue side as well. And coming into game 3, one more win will secure that seed.
And there are only 2 teams left to be decided. That is the 3rd seed from Europe and the 3rd seed from North America. And that will be Counter Logic Gaming versus C9 later tonight. And we still have a series left to play for today. And this has already been a pretty exciting one. H2K, they had the opportunity to equalize the score, but Deficio, they couldn't play around the Baron, could they?
They could not play around the Baron. They didn't even have to kill the Baron, just have to take the fight.
Because Baron is such a new thing, you know?
It's been in the game for 7 years, I believe. Ever since the game was released, there was a Baron in the game. And funny enough, it does... The way you set it up is kind of somewhat the same. Anyway, point is, under pressure, it can be difficult with the shot calling. Do you finish it? Do you take the fight? The 5 versus 4 fight? And so on. In the end, Fnatic actually bounced back because they managed to not only steal the Baron, but also win some following team fights, which is important to highlight. Game 3, though, H2K back on that red side makes it harder for them to get a good matchup for Nuclear in the bottom lane, because now H2K will look at that Kalista as a ban, most likely Xayah as a ban, and maybe even Tristana as a ban.
Now as we enter Champion Select, there is at least some good news for H2K fans. Jankos laughing, the whole team laughing. Seems like spirits are still high. You do not have to worry about them collapsing under the pressure yet. Hoping for a game that H2K can win. They're hoping to bring it back. It's going to take a reverse sweep at this point. Maybe they can do it. Fnatic banning out the Casio, don't want to see it again. Kalista also going to be off the table.
So, it's not going to happen, but I'm going to say it anyway. H2K, I want them to stop banning away the Gnar. I want them to ban away Tristana and Xayah, force Fnatic onto some other AD carry, and then just play something like a Jace into the Gnar. I know Odoamne can do it. Right now, he might not feel confident, but I feel like it is a strategy that H2K as a team should be perfectly capable of executing. Jankos has been considered one of the best early game junglers that we have in Europe, and Odoamne is really talented. You can play towards this top side. It just relies a little bit on confidence to try and set it up.
I mean, the hard thing for Fnatic is, also for H2K, is the fact that their draft was really good. They were doing a lot of good stuff in that game, but they lost due to misplays. So they might try and get some of the same, but they're leaving that Tristana open once again for Rekkles to take it.
And now we have to hope that H2K will immediately take the Alistar, because if not, they will be in the exact same situation they were in Game 1. And remember, they got obliterated in Game 1, and that's the adaptation
I like this.
We wanted to see.
I like this a lot. So by leaving the Gnar open, they can get it for themselves, and now the pressure is on Fnatic to try and find some kind of an answer. The likelihood is they're just going to lock in their jungler. They might try and go for an early mid lane pick here, or they just go for one of the more defensive supports, maybe even a Janna, to answer the Alistar.
Yeah, one of the counters to Alistar is, you know, Ardent Sensor range support, because you can win the lane super hard against him. If H2K felt like they were going to get a safe laning phase now, where they would not be under a lot of pressure by taking away the Alistar, well, then they are wrong, because now they will get pushed to tower over and over and over. It is very difficult to play this lane. Sivir is still the expected AD carry choice against this Tristana here. But it's a tough one for Nuclear and Chei, and they even leave the Sivir for now and let Fnatic potentially just ban it away.
Fnatic, though, may not be so concerned with what Nuclear is going to play. He has been suffering in the series thus far. Did have a decent Xayah game in Game 2. Still, however, was not enough. Mid lane and AD carry left to be picked. See what they want to go for. Maybe we'll see something new. Maybe it will still be the Sivir. H2K, though, have priority in the bans. What are they going to take off the table?
I mean, top lane is where Fnatic have so far not shown their pick, which is why H2K can pinch that role. I do not know if H2K are afraid of a sOAZ Jace and want to actually ban it next time. It's not something we've seen sOAZ use, you know, a whole lot here in the summer split. And there's a chance he just plays Maokai.
Unless they ban it away, of course.
Unless they ban the Maokai, that's the thing, right? If H2K is like, you're not going to play Jace, we can ban Maokai instead. If they actually are afraid he might play the Jace, they will ban the Jace.
Really, actually, incredibly curious to see what sOAZ is going to go to here.
They say you do not play Jace, you do not play Maokai either now.
Maybe a Cannon could be on the cards, though. I do feel like that is something that sOAZ has brought out before. I know you guys hate APK.
Oh, I hate it so much!
So useless every time I watch it.
But it's a possibility in terms of options for Fnatic to go for. The most obnoxious champions for Cannon to play against are Tristana and a Janna and a Gragas. They've all been taken off the board.
And of course, Nuclear known for the Ashe and the Varus in so many scenarios. They want to put him onto a less comfortable matchup. Does get his hands on the Caytlin, not as popular as she once was.
There's also a world where it is Gragas top for sOAZ if he doesn't feel like he has any good matchups left he wants to play, and you can pick things like a Zac in the jungle for Broxah. There's always the chance of doing that, but it is most likely just going to be Gragas jungle. It is the preferred pick for Broxah, and we get Syndra once again. Last game, not very successful in the early game, did not play around the lane at all. Broxah went to the top lane instead, trying to babysit sOAZ, and did actually cost Caps quite a lot, but by removing the Cassiopeia here, he's not going to face that same matchup.
Really debating, still the potential flex pick. Doesn't look like we're going to get it. It looks like instead, we're going to have a bit of a throwback. Gentlemen, Shen in the top lane. Oh man, so many potential options here on the opposite side for H2K, but very classic Fnatic comp.
We saw the Shen yesterday from Vizicachi into Odo, and unfortunately for him, he fell behind very hard in the early game, which allowed Odo to run absolute rampant off in a side lane. This matchup can be very dependent on who gets that early lead and how much of an advantage it is. But in terms of teamfight, I feel like H2K have a pretty big advantage with the amount of overall crowd control they have, their scaling, but also their ability to siege. They have a lot of poke with this composition that they've drafted.
So got that Caytlin from Nuclear, not the Sivir, trying to get a bit more power in his early laning phase, but after the Caytlin nerfs happened, it obviously costed quite a lot in the early game, and again, you're still facing a Janna on the side of Fnatic with this Tristana here, so it will be a very hard lane for Nuclear and Chei to play, also just based on the individual skill compared to who they're facing, and they cannot afford to fall super far behind.
If they can make it to the mid game, if they can get a lead even in the early game elsewhere on the map, you have the Gnar for the siege, the Corki for the siege, Caytlin with 5 traps to set up. It's going to be very difficult for Fnatic to deal with. But Fnatic are also one of the best teams, I would say the best team in the LCS right now, using Shen at that level 6 point to just blow open a lead.
When it comes to engaging against a siege comp though, that's where I have a few concerns for Fnatic. I know a lot of people say, but there's a Gragas, he can always all in, and that is true. But when Broxah was put on the sole engaged champion in the semi-final, he did not pull the trigger. He was much better as a follow-up player. So Jesiz played a lot of support, a lot of engage, or sOAZ played a lot of engage. Now it is back on Broxah. If that siege is being set up, he needs to be the man who dives in with the Shen ulti on to get into that, backline of H2K. If he doesn't do it, then suddenly Corki and Caytlin will do a lot of work on the towers.
Chance for Broxah to prove himself, a chance for H2K to fire back as we move to game 3. Fnatic, 1 win stands between them and a spot at Worlds, but H2K, it's gonna take the reverse sweep.
Vedius.
Coming back against the crowd.
Thanks for the support, Deficio. But it feels like the support is heavily in favor of the Fnatic squad for the time being. But it looks like we're just going to see the line of scrimmage. No fancy level 1 plays like we saw from the Unicorns yesterday.
Luckily, in this game here, we might get more action in the early game just based on this Tristana Janna lane, and then, of course, the Shen, who can always join if they want to go for potential tower dives.
Well, hang on a second, Deficio. I think that's the first time I've ever heard anyone say that a Janna lane will result in action.
I'm just saying, if they're gonna just perma-push that bot lane, HK needs to react and have some way out of it, and that is by forcing a fight, and that means we should get action.
That would be the hope.
Hopefully.
I would love that.
It might also just be them surrendering on the towers and being like,
My experiences of a Janna are very much shield AD carry. You can do what you like now. And there's not much that Analyst can do about it.
And that's why I play Janna. 1 button to win the lane. Feels pretty good, but gonna have to give respect to Chei and Nuclear. Chei especially has been incredibly good on the playmaking champions. His Rakan, you've seen consistently banned away, and for good reason. Have to see if he can put up a similar performance on the Alistar. Does also bang the cowbell for anyone wondering, so.
And also, actually, one thing that happened for H2K during the regular season when they kept beating all the bottom teams was that Nuclear and Chei were never really struggling 2v2. against all the bottom teams here in the LCS. So Chei very often got kind of unleashed. He was actually allowed to leave the lane. He could go mid lane. He could join with Jankos and invade enemy jungle. And he could really utilize the playmaking potential. And I think he looked really good doing that. But against the top teams in Europe, and especially the best bot lanes, we've just seen Nuclear and Chei struggling that 2v2. Means Chei cannot leave his lane, and he can't use that good roaming and playmaking potential of his. And then suddenly he's not having the same impact in the early game. And let's see what they can do in this lane down here in the bottom lane. It's going to be a lot on Nuclear specifically against the Tristana.
And you can see that with the Caytlin, after her nerfs to her wave clear and also the base attack speed that she had during early levels, it means that she doesn't quite have the same level of clear, but they've been able to get a very early level too, and there's that all-in threat that they have to respect. But you're basically trading auto attacks against the abilities plus auto attacks of Rekkles that are then further empowered by the Janna shield. So every time she tries to walk up and hit Rekkles, the Caytlin is going to very regularly lose that 1v1.
For now, all is quiet. Bot lane seems to be quite even. We check in on the junglers. Jankos still feels pretty dominant thus far, but no one with a major advantage. Top lane being pushed in as expected, and a bit more aggression on the bottom side. Trap's a little late. Combo not going to work out there. Good invade from Jankos. Once again, Broxah the Smite King will make it out. Permafrost does connect. Odoamne is here, but just going to give it the blast coming.
I like Jankos' focus on top side, though. Really try and get Odoamne to win this lane so he can become a split pusher as well. Force the Shen to play passive, and if Shen ever leaves the lane, then Odoamne maybe can take a tower. Like, you really want to have this Gnar winning. It seems to be the main win condition for H2K. Also looking at the game 5 yesterday, where Unicorns of Love and H2K had this exact top lane matchup.
You've got to remember the power of the package, too, from the Corki. Something that we felt was a little underutilized, I feel, from the Corki. Was trying to just use this package around the rest of the map. And what you can do with it is, if you've got so much pressure from the Gnar into the Shen, you just move Febiven up with Jankos, and you just use that really good mobility tool to cut off sOAZ's escape, set up a dive, and then you allow, well, you could deny the level 6 play on the bot from sOAZ, but also just get that Odo rolling.
Can have a very huge impact. But for now, Jungle's trading back and forth. Jankos a little bit behind in terms of XP, paying a little bit more attention to the mid lane.
It's fun. Whenever I see, Sejuani, Gragas kind of hit each other once or twice, I think back to the glory days of Lee Sin and Lee's always fighting each other, and you were like, someone's gonna die here whenever they find each other. Not in the tank meta, fighting bot lane though.
Right now, all in. Exhaust has been used. Rekkles taking a lot of damage. Trap does not trigger up. That means no free extra crits for Nuclear. But definitely a winning trade in favor. Now Broxah is here, however, Jankos too far away at the moment.
And so far in the bottom lane, Jesiz has not been able to interrupt the combos from Chei. Actually setting up good trades here for H2K specifically. But then Broxah is trying to deny Febiven some farm, but again, with Chei finding the engages onto Rekkles, Nuclear can actually win them as well, and it's allowing H2K's bottom lane to do very well. So good to see from them here in this game 2, the Caytlin working out.
It's a nice look. I was honestly very concerned when Rekkles got his hands on the Tristana again. The Janna a little less aggressive, and Chei doing incredibly well on the Alistar, sort of as expected. It's
just a big problem for Chei if he gets interrupted by the Hurricane from a Janna. Like, he won't actually apply his CC onto Rekkles, and then suddenly he's taking a lot of damage in return on the way out. Broxah snuck his way in behind H2K. Oh, the all-in from Chei. He's going to get punished.
Body slam. Jesiz moving forward, trying to lock him down. Good damage comes in from Rekkles. Eye of the Storm gives him a big boost. Broxah gonna body slam him back. Chei is now in trouble, and it looks like he will drop. The heal comes out. Rekkles, flash forward. Jesiz moving in. First blood for the Janna.
And they were just waiting for the all-in from Chei. The moment that headbutt pulverize came in, Broxah was lying in wait. He came down through the river, utilized the blast gun to catch them off guard. Now Caps is the one that might be in trouble, but he's probably gonna flash.
Force stack will get locked up. He's just going to use the cleanse, slow and steady onto Jankos. Lots of...
Oh! Look at the face of frustration there on Jankos. So I was sitting there thinking, hang on a second, if Caps gets another ball down, that's going to be 5 balls to the face. And I don't think a level 4 Jankos is going to be able to hold on to that.
No one ever wants to take that much, Vedius. It's a difficult situation to be in. And I got to say, Fnatic need to be praised. They saw H2K. They saw this play coming. They knew Chei was hungry for those engages. Broxah was there to punish.
It's the mind games from Jesiz in lane, being like, look, Chei, you can always engage on my AD carry. I will not do anything. Just keep doing it over and over. And then when Chei does it so far up in the lane...
He says, it's not the AD carry you gotta be scared of. Flash, Zephyr, Auto, dead.
And the jungler as well. So Jankos trying to force a flash here from Caps. Doesn't realize he's taking so much damage and there's so many balls on the ground that will soon get fired at him.
But the biggest thing here is that Febiven was just stuck mid. He had to clear the wave. He was not able to support his jungler, and it's level 4 versus level 6. Like, that's just...
I think he just wanted to force a flash or try.
I think so, yeah, I think so.
Walk away. Just walk away.
But then he stuck around a little bit too long and he gave away his life. So now 2-0 to Fnatic.
And with bot lane struggling now, and mid lane struggling as well, our eyes have to turn naturally to the top side of the map. Gnar should be advantaged. Small CS lead for Odoamne. We've seen him be clutch on this champion. But is the lead he has right now big enough? What can this man do to bring his team back into the game?
Well, he really wants that black cleaver as fast as possible to see if he can actually force sOAZ out of lane. We've even seen 1v1 kills in the Gnar versus Shen matchup. But right now, he's not really getting enough time from the rest of his team because Fnatic, after that little kill in mid and the kill bot lane, are now sending Broxah down to bot lane to place the most obvious TP ward in the world just to signal, if you move past this ward here and it's still alive, we will TP and kill you. So, good guy Chei puts down his control ward to kill it.
Tristana still doing a lot of damage to the tower. Explosion does hit. Looking for the engage onto Broxah. Tower burns down a little bit, but not enough to actually fall.
Another thing I should highlight about the ward, seeing as the TP is on cooldown from sOAZ, is also just to spot if H2K are sending multiple members down the lane in case there is a tower dive being set up by Fnatic. So it wasn't just a TP ward. Overhyped that one a little bit. I was really hoping it would have been. But
also, Shen has an ult.
Shen does have an ult. He doesn't really need it. It was just to give some good vision through the lane. He got control ward anyway. sOAZ is just sitting top and crying because he can't really do anything.
And think about now the options for H2K, because game plan was bot lane goes even. You maybe send Jankos and Febiven up to the top lane to try and shut down sOAZ early on. Maybe deny his level 6 ultimate play. But now the bottom lane, they already fall behind. Good gank came out from Broxah. Caps picks up a kill, which puts Jankos behind, meaning that he can't really put any kind of early pressure down due to that setback. And now because of the control that Fnatic have over the bottom lane, H2K are forced to come down to the bot side. And there's just a Shen waiting for the counter gank.
It's good though that Odoamne, actually, sorry to interrupt there, but it's good that Odoamne is actually saving his TP just so he can match.
Yeah.
Because Nuclear is keeping even in farm. He even on the first back actually got a dagger and a BF sword. So because the assist went to Rekkles and the kill went to Jesiz, it obviously means faster ardent sensor, so it actually is a win for Jesiz specifically and Fnatic. But it at least means they can keep even.
Package used. Shen ult going to be used as well. Caps running for his life. Good damage comes in. The follow-up now from the Shen as well. Jankos set to burn. Another kill fired out for Fnatic, and already action on the bottom side in response. But sOAZ looking for a little bit of a follow-up. The flash forward. Febiven going to have to flash out to safety. Caps pretty far away, but sOAZ may look to follow this up. Scatter the weak, not going to connect. Blast Cone is there for the escape, but the taunt lands as well. But it's just sOAZ versus the Corki.
And it's the Shen ult that you've got to respect. H2K, they tried to put a gank hat down into the middle lane. Immediately sOAZ is there to keep his mid laner alive. Caps did use his flash in the exchange, but they've gained pressure mid. Broxah is free to go down to the bottom lane. And things are just snowballing out of control for H2K. And you have to start thinking about that mental fortitude because Jankos is falling very far behind in this early game.
Still all in, you just talked about here. There is a Mega now for Odoamne to try and interrupt it, but he's too far away because sOAZ has already stepped behind his tower. So nothing he could do to actually save Jankos in that mid lane. And as you highlighted, Vedius is a little bit too aggressive of a gank. You can only really pull that off if you know you can interrupt the Shen ulti, which was not the case here.
When we look back on game 2, you can see H2K pretty comfortably in small leads, starting to build it up bigger and bigger. But this game looking a lot more like game 1, where Fnatic are firing shots very early into the game. 2K gold lead, only 11 minutes in. Odoamne really the only point of pressure on the map for H2K.
But the fact that H2K is still pushing in top and will get this top lane tower eventually is okay for Odoamne specifically. The problem is for the rest of the team. Febiven is behind in mid. His tower will take damage. Bot lane tower is extremely low after some of those plays from before. So it's on Febiven and Nuclear to hold on for as long as possible while Odoamne is doing all the work in top. However, one bad fight from H2K and they lose 1 or 2 towers. They're trying to get a kill mid.
Moving in, CC goes down. Cap's gonna get locked up, running now for his life as Jankos tries to follow up with a little bit more damage. Rockets from Febiven looking for the side step. Caps is donezo though. Odoamne gonna snag that one.
So finally, H2K get a successful punish. They play around the window that sOAZ cannot save the mid laner. No flash available on Caps, and while he plays that as well as he can, the flank or the rundown from Odo gives him a kill, and now this is gonna make this 1v1 even better.
And everything around that mid lane is just H2K wards, like control wards as well, and yet Caps without flash, pushing to that tower, over-aggressive, gets punched, and this is huge for H2K to try and get some gold back here, because now they're gonna get more damage on top tower. They don't have to worry about the mid lane for a while. And just to say that, Febiven is taking some damage, but he's fine.
Red buff falls off of Broxah. No chance to push any further. Odo will rake that top tower.
Yes, first tower now for H2K. Caps here got very complacent after getting early kills. Being so aggressive in lane without a Shen ulti and any wards around him.
And just a minute ago, it was a 2K gold lead for Fnatic, now brought back. H2K only 500 gold behind, a reasonably negligible difference at this point in the game. Black Cleaver as well, completed for the Gnar. He continues to be a massive threat. But Ardent Sensor now coming in for Jesiz. That's a big concern for Nuclear and Chei. 80 steroid, on-hit effects. Janna definitely a terrifying prospect to play against, especially when it's the pocket for Rekkles.
This obviously means for Fnatic they want to keep playing around that bot side if they can. Odoamne snuck his way to the mid lane, still no flash from Caps. Engage bot lane.
Chei hitting Jesiz. The immediate Monsoon and counter out. TP has been used. H2K hoping to get more from that play, but gonna count against them. Caps firing the stun in the mid lane, just a bit of trading, however. At the end of the day, a lot of resources committed for H2K, but what are they gonna get from it?
The thing is here from H2K is they tried to make the play down bot proactively using their teleport, but trying to lock down the Janna and the Tristana, very difficult. You have the Monsoon, you have the jump from Rekkles. They are able to get the flash out from the Janna, but now sOAZ has both his ulti and TP, which means that Fnatic, they have a lot of options available to them. As you can see with Broxah and Caps moving very aggressively into H2K's jungle.
And Febiven just can't join fights. Like, he's so weak in this lane at the moment. Had to go for Hexdrinker as well to try and stay alive. Constantly pushed on the tower by the Syndra, so it's Caps moving first, unless there's a package for Febiven.
Flash of Broxah, follow-up, Permafrost does connect. Blue buff used to try to find the disengage. Shen ulti has been consumed. Now looking to find the fight. Moving forward, Rekkles hungry for a little bit more. Fnatic pushing further into the blue side jungle. Not gonna get anything. Odo continues the pressure.
Very interesting call there by Fnatic, not actually just committing to the fight, but Broxah disengaged first. I think he was waiting for sOAZ to be out of range from a potential interrupt by the Gnar. And then the re-engage after great stun from Caps suddenly meant they couldn't actually get onto the targets. All of HK just disengaged. Will be a mid lane tower for Fnatic though, but Odoamne getting a lot of work done in that top lane still.
And of course, Rekkles pushing on the bottom side, but that tier 2 so close to death. Odoamne continues to be the strong point for H2K. 30 CS lead in his favor, but Rekkles also starting to pull out with a lead of his own. Janna also there to back him up. That's going to be another tower for Fnatic.
So Fnatic just playing it safe around blue buff. Waiting for sOAZ to be ready. Not risking losing just the jungler here, knowing they will get 1 or 2 towers eventually. Get that big goal lead. Should be a Rift Herald though for H2K. Caps is on his way back to lane, but Broxah is recalling, so no one here to actually stop it.
Big win condition right now for H2K is still to play through Odoamne. This guy has been doing extremely well in terms of the early game, and now H2K, they're investing a gank up top.
Right for Proc, double bounce, knock up, taunted, knocked into the wall and taken down. Actually, nice pickoff comes in from H2K.
And there's no way for Fnatic to truly punish. They are grouping up as a 3-man around the Dragon area, and his Caps against Febi.
Hope for 5-ball ult. Could make it 6 for a moment here. Not going to use it though. Baits out the package. Definitely not the ideal use. Meanwhile, Fnatic are going to grab the Ocean Drake.
Yeah, they'll just trade this for the tier 2 in the top lane. Now, bear in mind, Odo, with the minion wave, should be able to just take it down, and then they could potentially use that Rift Herald to siege onto the tier 3. But no, they're actually just going to use it to take down that tower. And I think this is a fine trade for H2K, still keeping the gold relatively close.
I mean, H2K could have gotten a full charge on the next tower if they just saved it. Just a few seconds, let Odoamne kill the tower here. Will still be some damage on the inhib turret. Sadly for HK, it's really hard to take it down this early in the game, and sOAZ is here to try and defend and stop Odoamne from doing anything.
Yeah, attacks to the eye, so it's going to grab an extra 25 gold there. But good pressure coming in once again. So much focus on the top side. Febiven luckily still farming pretty comfortably. Will start to come back once he can get that Trinity Force.
And it's kind of fun that Odoamne has been getting both his kill and assist due to Fnatic actually overextending in a lane without really having a purpose behind it. Caps did it in mid lane. We had no wards, no flash, died to Odoamne. Top lane right before you was sOAZ doing exactly the same thing on his side. Died also to the gank here from Chei, Jankos, and of course Odoamne. So that's at least some gold going over to this Gnar. That could be very, very useful for him. And now he needs to go to the bottom lane, play around the next few towers, and just keep trying to funnel gold into his team by killing towers in the side lane.
Jankos caught out a little bit, but is still throwing out damage onto sOAZ. The Rekkles just rips through these towers. The attack speed, steroid, ardent sensor making it all too easy. Taking his time as he clears the wave out as well. Yet another tower dropping for Fnatic. 2.5k gold lead for themselves once again.
It's important to recognize that Fnatic, they do have a healthy gold lead, as you just identified, Drakos. They still have a strong grasp over the map right now. The only strong point for H2K is Odoamne off on this side lane, but Rekkles, he still has a healthy advantage over Nuclear. Caps has been constantly pushing Febiven underneath his tower. And while we are keeping our eyes on Odo, like Fnatic still have so much control over the rest of the game.
Have a much stronger mid game as well with a fairly fed Syndra and then an ardent sensor Tristana. Caytlin is still fairly weak in the mid game unless she can utilize her traps, so her damage is very low at the moment. The same can't be said for an almost 2-item Tristana with, again, as I highlighted, a attack speed, attack damage shield and an attack speed buff from an ardent sensor. Like, Rekkles already in the mid game is set up to carry.
One of the players I'm keeping my eyes on in this mid-game will be Broxah. You brought it up in draft, Deficio, where he is one of the main engagers. We did see that during the semi-finals, his confidence was not of the highest. He wasn't the guy starting off a lot of these fights, and he was part of a detriment to a lot of the fights from the side of Fnatic. So a lot of the focus will be on him to try and make things happen and use this early lead that Fnatic can build up for themselves.
And any of those weaknesses you mentioned, it's definitely something you want to prove is no longer a problem as you get ready for the world stage. Fnatic is still 1 win away. Qualifying as Europe's 3rd seed. If Broxah comes in with a massive performance, if he destroys H2K here, it's going to look so good for him.
Yeah, the good thing for Fnatic is they can rely on just pushing minions at the moment with Janna and Tristana and just constantly force, you know, H2K to try and defend wherever Rekkles and Jesiz will be going. We know that Tristana just need a bit of time on a tower to take it down, but they're trying to use that advantage to say we don't need to actually force teamfights right now, we just need to force down objectives. But again, they're racing against Odoamne specifically, who's now killed another tower in the bottom lane, looking for that tier 2 tower as well. And honestly, the nightmare for Odoamne right now is having to TP away. He wants to just keep pushing 1v1 and not care about the rest of the map.
He wants to go back exclusively for the Frozen Mallet, which he will use to make sOAZ's life hell, and he's very close to doing so. 50 CS lead up over sOAZ. Odoamne doing so well this game. H2K, I think the priority on the Gnar, giving up to Tristana, does feel like it was worth it.
So far, at least, Odoamne is definitely doing everything he can. Now, the problem as a split pusher in a tank meta is that these tank comps can so often just run to Baron, start the Baron, and force the split pusher to react. He needs to TP in and join the fight to stop it from happening. So Fnatic at the moment are just giving it a few more minutes before they might look to just really force that Baron play that forces Odoamne to teleport, and then he won't be able to just sit bot lane and keep killing towers.
Once again, we enter that mid-game lull. Baron's the next objective, but it's 20 minutes. It's too early to force anything like that. It's the trade of creep waves. It's the push back and forth. Players got to keep focused on the game. Nuclear and Chei focused on a potential engage here.
Ooh, there's actually TPing in now. They're going to try and collapse on them. Broxah is on top side.
Chei here. Ooh, good nice interrupt. Flash out. Rekkles looks like he could still be okay. Gnar coming in on the backside. Now Fnatic could potentially look to turn. So many cooldowns already burned, but in goes the Corki. In goes the package. Rekkles still alive and well. Doing what he can to keep moving forward in the fight. H2K retreating strong as 5. So much damage, but oh no, he wants to turn it back. Nuclear still hitting the backline for free. Shen blocking what he can. Rekkles is firing back. Caps is firing back. Febiven is running for his life. He's looking to get the bounces. He's looking to keep it going. He wants to go to Worlds. Fnatic in control.
It's a huge team fight. We already talked about how much stronger the Tristana will be here in the mid game compared to a Caytlin. There's so many buffs for Rekkles. He already sits on 2 items. And Caps, of course, after winning that mid lane. H2K just tried to force a team fight. They didn't even have to go for it. They could just keep split pushing with Odoamne, but they go for that all-in against Rekkles and Jesiz.
And they saw an opportunity here. They saw two members of Fnatic out of position. They thought that they could punish, but again, the Shen ultimate, the fact that Gragas was running up through the river.
And that interruption here from Jesiz on the combo from Chei was also key to get away.
And just keep your eyes on Caps here. His ability to land this 4-man stun onto H2K is what gives them time to regroup. Jankos, the big front line, now gone. Odo, there's not enough follow-up damage, and Rekkles is just untouched in the fight.
Dealing so much damage here after Caps' beautiful stun. And as we said before here, this is actually the moment where H2K are weak in this game. They do not have an AD carry who can deal proper damage. They have a split push who's winning the side lane. But by making this play here, trying to catch Rekkles and Jesiz out, they allowed Fnatic a 5-on-5 team fight because they can use Shen ulti, and they had both Broxah and Caps close to where we saw this, fight break out.
sOAZ is going to land the taunt. Good to see a fight here as Odoamne going to get knocked back. Good damage drops onto him.
Ooh, Chei.
H2K composition, good at sieging, not so great at the wave clear though at this moment in the game. Means that Fnatic are pretty comfortable pressing forward.
Chei can't do anything because Odoamne is back in base, so he's just kind of sitting behind Fnatic.
All alone. That's going to be an inhibitor tower taken down. Inhibitor is next. This is going to be a big difference. sOAZ is simply backing up. That's a lot of damage. Jankos is the last ditch effort from the fight. They are going to take down Caps. Chei on the backside is going to get the 3-man knockup. Rekkles the most important target remaining. Knocked back into the team. Odoamne trying to do what he can, but Rekkles does so much damage. sOAZ being the front line, Jesiz shielding him up. That's the double. He's looking for a little bit more. The trap, the saving grace for H2K. He's going to grab the triple. Fnatic are cleaning house.
Huge team fight once again for Fnatic. They stop the comeback from H2K. There will be no reverse sweep today. And 23.5 minutes, Fnatic are going to take the 3-0.
And it was not choking for H2K. It was Fnatic proving themselves worthy of that spot in Worlds. It is the 3-0. It is the third seed. It is Fnatic back on the world stage. Fantastic performance across the board. It was dominance in Game 1 and Game 3. In Game 2, it was a comeback, I think, of epic proportions. Has to feel good for the Fnatic members.
The best team in the regular season. Struggled in playoffs. Lost the semifinal to Misfits, then bounced back in the third place game, but had to go through the gauntlet here to actually make it to Worlds. Very, very important win for the players and the organization.
But their tough road doesn't end now. They've got to go to the play-ins. There's going to be a lot of tough competition. They will still have to get through in order to qualify for the World's group stage.
It's important, though, that Fnatic have a superstar AD carry they can definitely rely on during the play-ins to try and qualify to the group stages. Same thing can say about sOAZ up in the top lane. What a great split from him overall.
It's been a good look for the team across the board. The all-ins on the bottom side from Jesiz and Rekkles. A few of those team fights from Caps on the Syndra. The 4-man stun you pointed out, Vedius. Coming in clutch. The grin on Broxah's face, I think that says it all. That man is going to Worlds. That man is going to China. For H2K,
it's rough for them, right?
It's hard.
They had a really good gauntlet run. They were able to get very close games, but a 3-0 regardless over Splice. They went all 5 games. They finally were able to defeat their rivals, but they just couldn't match up to Fnatic on
I mean, they're mainly going to be looking at that game 2 and say, guys, we had it all. Like, it was right there. We were going to win that game, bounce back in this series. But when you lose a game like that, it's so hard then going into the next game to kind of reset everything. And we saw in this game here early on, there were some people getting punished. Like, Cap suddenly got a few kills in the mid lane from Jankos. Down in the bottom lane as well, the first gank was a success from Broxah, and then suddenly Fnatic were looking really strong, and it seemed almost impossible for H2K to bounce back.
and across the series, one player did stand out. Our player of the series will be Rekkles. A lot of highlight moments from many Fnatic players, but Rekkles was the consistent threat. Did not die in this series.
And you can just see from his CS scores how convincing he was in terms of the laning phase. To be fair, game 2, his high kill participation was because, remember, Fnatic, they had 0 kills in the first 25 minutes, and then they won a bunch of fights because he got to that late game Sivir point. Important
for him, though, to make Worlds again. He talks about this a lot, about how last year was such a huge disappointment for him. They had to rebuild the Fnatic roster after losing Huni and Reignover. The roster didn't click. As a captain, he struggled as well to have the impact he wanted to have, and the team failed to make the World Championship for the first time. And the fact that now they return to play, I should say for the second time, because Season 2, technically, they didn't make it, so I'm just going to stop myself there. The history is important. They're back at Worlds, though.
They're back at Worlds. I love it. You're very dramatic hand motions.
A lot of fans are going to be excited.
I'm like, Season 2.
So we have G2, we have Misfits, and we have Fnatic representing Europe at Worlds. The only one left is North America, which will be happening later on this evening. But I think a lot of fans are very happy with our representatives. I feel like H2K, they definitely put up a good show. But at the end of the day, they couldn't quite match up to the power of Fnatic. And I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys can do on the internationals.
When we look at like Gauntlet expectations, when you look back at what we thought before we saw any of these teams play, Fnatic were the safe bet. And I think for good reason. Maybe Splice was a dark horse. Maybe Unicorns of Love. H2K also, after their showing in 3rd place, I still felt pretty confident that they could get there. But when it came down to it, Fnatic with a 3-0, that's, I think, the best thing that could have happened for them now to go to Worlds as well.
Yeah, exactly. Also because the planes will start very soon. You do not have a lot of time to prepare for the next thing. And having the confidence and knowing that the current style you're playing actually works, at least in your home region, to make you one of the best teams that can go to Worlds is important for them. Obviously, there's a few patches happening, but no insanely big changes.
Curious to see, of course, coming up shortly will be Rekkles, our player of the series, on the post-game lobby. Excited to hear what he has to say about the series, about Worlds ahead of him, about being the captain. He had so much to say in that MVP interview. I have to imagine it feels good for him to finally qualify. But it was a lot on the line this week, and the players stepped up with some solid performances. Let's take a moment to highlight the biggest plays brought to you by Acer Predator. Now, Febiven, he found himself surrounded in Game 3 versus Splice. Instead of running away, he decided to fight back and managed to pull off a big turnaround.
Let's see if they can pick up Febiven. Nowhere for him to go trying to lead these minions all the way through. Still dangerous, cornered. If Syndra gets a pick off, that's going to be #worth.
This could be like one of the biggest outplays.
Yeah, but wait for the Jarvan. Just wait for the Jarvan. Auto teleport.
Trash is on the way, he's trying to ruin it. Oh, he's
really good. Chei's in. Oh my goodness, you gotta turn it around. He gives his life. Febiven falling, but he did his job.
Yeah. Okay. Jarvan is from Jarvan coming on the side. Oh, nice. I kill Jarvan, I will kill Jarvan. Okay, I go to you. If you kill Jarvan, we can match.
All right, so that's why they banned Chei's Rakan, in case you were wondering. That little 2-man instantaneous knockup right there.
Yeah. After the stun landed from Febiven, though, like, that was a big play from the Syndra. Just kind of dancing around, not dying, being so low, and then landing a stun into, like, a little bit of burst damage.
We were debating this at length. We're like, at this point in Splice, you just have to suicide someone in, hope that he burns skills on them so the other guy can get the kill. It feels like there's no way out at that point.
Yeah. Really good play from Febiven. He was considered, during the regular season, to be the best performing mid laner, and I think that he still is definitely among the top here in Europe.
Definitely the case. Well, H2K's Odoamne had some big engages against Unicorns of Love yesterday. In Game 2, he caught Samix out of position and flashed in to secure that kill. Exile comes out of the brush. The ward in the mid lane does give H2K a lot of information. Moving around, Jankos is off to the side. They see Unicorns of Love in the pinch. Exile retreats. Samix in a lot of trouble here, leaping forward. Oh. Beautiful play from Odoamne. Not going to be a chance for Samix to make it out in the end.
That was so good from Odo. He knew that he was going to get knocked back from the Tristana ultimate, so he flashes, uses his ulti, which cannot be interrupted by CC, to then avoid the knockback from Samix. Now, this is arguably a little risky from Odo, but he knows what he can do there. The flash ulti from Odo, knowing that he cannot be displaced.
I can go on Rumble here.
Yeah. It's not bad. Look.
I
walk up. Tristana or what? Tristana flash.
Tristana.
Can you chase?
Nice. Good job. Nice.
Okay, can we go mid hard? Look, Syndra maybe. Should I ult?
I don't know.
I feel like that color caster broke that down perfectly. I don't know if there's really much to add to what he said.
I mean, that's true. Actually,
he's technically immune to all CC. It's not just that he can't be displaced. So the colorcaster was technically.
There's a little bit more to it. Funny enough, I actually talked to Odo after the series, and he was like, "Yeah, that game with Jarvan, man. I mean, I was so bad in the early game. Everything he did was just wrong. But then, for some reason, past 20 minutes, he just like turned it on and he just did everything perfectly on Jarvan. So that was quite impressive.
We highlighted him as player of the series. Then you look at the game one score where they won. It's like 1-3 and a bunch of assists.
Yeah.
But he did so much work. Of course, in the end, did fall, and it wasn't looking good for Fnatic in Game 2 today. Then their Danish jungler decided to take matters into his own hands and came up with a clutch Baron steal. Now it's all on Broxah. So much pressure on him once again. Now he needs to secure from the other side. Can he be the member to leap over the walls to take this Baron down? Eyes on the Baron. 4K health getting lower. Febiven will have the miasma. Is he going to block the entrance? 2K. That's going to be burned down. He does get it! Broxah! That's the hero Fnatic needs, but now they have to face the fight. Febiven is moving forward, but the flashes are used, and they're going to walk away with the Baron. Guys, it's the exact opposite of Game 1.
I think you just jump in. No.
Nice. Just leave, whoever can leave. Nice, guys, nice.
Good job. Just like scrims, guys.
Nice, guys, nice.
Good job. Just like scrims, guys.
Now we have 7 more minutes.
Just like scrims, guys. Just like
All
scrims.
part of the plan.
Man, that play just tilts me so hard, man. H2K just had the easiest setup in the world.
You said it best, Deficio, during the downtime. Hey, it's not like Baron's a new objective. It's been in the game for 7 years.
All 5 members had flash ready. Multiple had already jumps they could use over the wall. The marker was already in the flanking position. There were like a million ways to just jump over that wall and kill all the Fnatic players instead of allowing them to actually get it 50-50.
Yes, that is very true, but
it happened.
The burst from Caps and the coordination
It's true.
from that mid-jungle synergy.
Nothing you could do against that at all.
Nothing.
If there's anything we've learned from Rift Rivals so long ago, it's that the only thing that matters is mid-jungle synergy.
Exactly.
Mark.
It's true, and we saw it right then. That's why Fnatic will go to Worlds.
That is why they will go to Worlds.
The team with the best.
I also love that what didn't make our big playlist was Rekkles like multiple triple kills back to back, and it's because it happens so frequently that it's like no longer a highlight worthy. Well, that's going to do it from us here at the caster desk. Let's send it over to Sjokz for that post-game lobby.
Welcome everyone to the last post-game lobby of the season, where I'm joined by Gilius, YamatoCannon, and one of Europe's most recent combatants at World, Rekkles from Fnatic. Rekkles, I first have to go to you after the emotions in Paris and not being able to play the final and so much at stake today, finally making it. Can you tell me just how it feels and how relieved you are to have made it?
I think it's hard to put it in words, but definitely relief is probably the biggest feeling right now. I feel like I worked harder this year than ever before, and I really tried hard to like make the team work more than ever, because before I think I was very self-focused and I wasn't really putting too much like time into working on maybe my synergy with my support, for example, or my synergy with my jungler. And I think I was just trying to develop more so that we had more tools when these kind of games would come around, so we wouldn't be so one-dimensional. And yeah, I mean, it just feels really good, because on one hand, I really feel like if we didn't make it this time around, that I would maybe reconsider like continue playing, because I feel like at this point, after being to Worlds twice as well, if I don't make it 2 years in a row, then you know, it just feels like I'm not really accomplishing anything and I'm spending so much time. So I'm really happy that we made it, because now it once again feels like I have a new goal in my career.
Yeah, you do. A big event coming up, fantastic opportunity. When you talk about how much emotions that are involved, obviously on you and on all 5 players and on the staff, the pressure was probably immense. And then you have to wait for a bit. You have to see H2K play those 2 matches beforehand. So what was the process the last couple of days? How did you try and keep calm but still prepare enough and not over-prepare and not drive yourself crazy?
I think playing H2K was actually good for us. I think we weren't really panicking or anything watching them beat both Splice and Unicorns, because I think pretty much everyone in the team feels more uncomfortable playing against Splice or Unicorns. First of all, because we have bad records against them. I think we're 1-1 against both teams in this year, and it really just doesn't match up well with our style. And also because we beat H2K in Paris, so we were pretty happy with them winning both on Friday and Saturday, and that we would have to play them today. And I don't really think they showed anything new either. I think they just did what they did against us in Paris, but maybe a little bit better. So we weren't really feeling anything special about today. We were just really focused on what we needed to do and what kind of issues we had in Paris. And I think we covered up some of them, but definitely in Game 2 we could have had a better draft or a smarter draft, because I think we kind of just put ourselves in a position where one team has Saya and one doesn't. And that's kind of it, you know, like it doesn't get much more from it. So
well, I wanted to mention that game too specifically. I had our analyst here, and Gilius is saying, I feel like Broxah is not really entirely in the right setting yet. He's trying to get into the game, and then that steal happens, and everything turns around. So you said it was very impactful, and Rekkles, I also just want to know, was that a moment in the team where the communication just went like, Broxah's happy, it's all good, let's try and turn this game around?
Well, we kind of knew that we always could win because we had Sivir. So like once it gets to 4-item stage, you can always win. But we didn't really have any good ideas in the early / mid game. We always felt like they had pressure on more lanes than we did, and they always had like the proactive move. So we're kind of just trying to farm it up while not losing too much at once. But I think we were too hesitant. We didn't really like swap in time, and we didn't really like trade Herald for Dragon or anything like that. They just got Herald for free, and then bot tower for free, and then top tower for free, and it just never ended. So we really felt like if we didn't get that Nash, then probably would have lost the game. So shout outs to Broxah, obviously. And after we got the Nash, like, I mean, as I said, Sivir is a late game champ, so we reached the late game, and then we just won some teamfights. So
yeah, I think that Nash steal was such a shift of momentum because after you go 1 game 2, I saw Jankos on the cam, and he was like super sad because he lost the 50-50 smite. So I mean, if they won that game, it would have been maybe different series, maybe 3-2 for you guys. But yeah, that was the tilter for them.
Gilius was actually a big fan of you during the series. He said, why do they keep giving Rekkles Tristana in those games? And if this goes to 50 minutes, Rekkles is going to carry. So you had God Gilius supporting you. So maybe that played into everything. All right, so let's move on to what is up next for Fnatic. You guys are going to Worlds and to the Worlds play-ins. First up, you will start there. So let's take a look at the competition there for, well, we have everything filled in for the play-ins outside of the NA LCS representative as a 3rd seed, which will be either CLG or C9. So just to quickly explain how this will go, out of all these 2 teams, they will go into 4 groups of 3. But the pool 3 seed, so WE, Hong Kong Attitude, Fnatic, as well as the 3rd seed from NALCS will not be able to meet each other. Then the top 2 of each group, so top 2 out of 3, will go into a draw, and then you have to play 1 best of 5. If you win that, you move on to the next stage. So Yamato, first thoughts of kind of the first hurdle that is up for Fnatic and the teams in play-ins?
I feel like looking at these teams, I am not too well researched about the smaller regions, but the one that sticks out the most for me has to be Gambit. I think if anyone's going to shake things up in this bracket, it has to be Gambit because they have players with a lot of experience. Diamond Prox on the case, Edward, also Kira, PvP Steos. I like this roster. I feel like maybe they can shake things up with some strange picks and come up with something different. For
sure. As an example, a group could be Fnatic, Gambit, Fenerbahce. And then you guys would have to play.
I wouldn't like that.
You wouldn't like, I mean...
No, we scrimmed Gambit and they looked really good, so...
Oh, all right. So you
I mean, that's the only team we scrimmed, so I cannot talk for the others, but Gambit actually looked like LCS caliber, so... I'm not sure about the others if they're worse, anything like that, but I just really felt like Diamond Prox was still Diamond Prox, you know, and Edward was still Edward, and it didn't really feel like it would be an easy road for us.
Wherever they end up, you see Gambit making it to the next stage of Worlds?
Possibly, yeah. I think definitely they can be one of the 4 teams making it through.
For you guys, obviously, first time appearance since 2015. You finally made it. What's the plan now? Are you guys going to boot camp straight away, or are you then going to China?
Actually, I have no idea.
Okay.
The thing is, before the Misfit series, we were talking a lot about like Korean boot camp, and we were talking a lot about, you know, potential groups at Worlds, and we're already kind of there in our heads. Like we're already qualified to Worlds, already making plans for what we were going to do before. And after we lost that series, it just felt like it was, you know, devastating. Too many consequences at once. So before today, we just kept reminding ourselves that we aren't going to talk about what's going to happen after the series because it's just going to put us in a bad state of mind. And we really just want to be here today, focus on winning. And, you know, now we're just going to have to talk about the rest. But I'm happy that we took that sort of like learning experience from before.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure that the arrangements are already in place. And now it's non-stop for you guys. You're going to train and then straight to play-ins. Gilius, do you see Fnatic falling in the play-in stage? And who's your kind of outsider?
Yeah, I think Gambit looks a bit dangerous. Like, I don't think you should underestimate any team here because they can pull out a random cheese, you know, and then
obviously
it goes down really quickly.
Team WE is in here as well.
But yeah, Fnatic should sweep through this tournament if they respect the enemies. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been something the past couple of days when we talked about Fnatic that often came up, that possibly when you guys were doing so good, it's much harder to improve. And it's much harder, G2 has also always said this, if you're constantly winning, it's much harder to pinpoint, okay, where do we have to improve? How can we improve our vision and stuff like that? So now that you come off such a high, 3-0 versus H2K, it was all relatively easy. How will you make sure that you have the right mindset in the next couple of weeks?
Well, I think LCS and Worlds is really different, so I don't think it will be much of a problem. I think in LCS, it's easy to get complacent. You're winning this one game a week, and it really just feels like everything is going your way. But I think, for example, Rift Rivals is kind of a similar schedule to the play-ins or Worlds. So with us learning so much from what we did back then, we weren't really adaptive. We weren't really talking about like what we could do better for the next day because we're so used to the LCS schedule. I think we'll be just much more prepared for the schedule that's going to come up now, and I think we won't really have the same issues as we had before. But yeah, I mean, you can never really know until you really get there and you really get to see these teams because, as I said, I don't really know anything about any team other than Gambit.
I think you guys are really good when you play on one patch, Like you have problems adapting to different patches, but when you play on one patch, you guys are really good. So I think Worlds is going to be good for Fnatic.
Yeah, you mentioned explicitly Broxah, I think. You think he could get really good if he's comfortable.
Yeah, Broxah is an example. When he spams a few champs, he's really good on them. And when you guys have a good read on the meta, you're really good on the few champs you play. So I think it's really good for you guys.
Well, if you guys make it through the playing stage, you'll make it to the next stage. Let's take a look at the groups then for World Championship and who is qualified already. And let's do a little bit of a thought exercise for possible groups. So I did a bit of a G2, Samsung, TSM, WE could be a group. Fnatic, IMT, RNG. Yeah, those are all interesting combination, so to say. So Yamato, you already said, oof, what jumped out?
I think the main question is it good to be a first seed? Because you can run into SKT and Samsung, and then you consider yourself if you're a second seed. Longzhu is the one you want to avoid. I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe it's better to be a second seed. Maybe it is.
We have seen in previous years that sometimes it wasn't bad to be a second seed. Of course, obviously remember that in this, you can't meet someone from your region, so you wouldn't have a Longzhu SKT in the same group. So that would set SKT up to meet G2, even if they bounced. So let's talk about our other European teams. First up, G2 Esports, Yamato. MSI, Redemption, they did great, but we're further. We saw ups and downs, but a very strong finish from them in the playoffs.
I think what was so crazy about MSI was it was so close in the end. Like, it was very close. It could have ended either way. TSM could have been the team that gone through. But I think the big question mark with G2 is best of ones. I think that's where they are weak. If they come in swinging right off the get-go, they pick up a couple of best of one wins, then I think they might be fine. But usually the group stage is where they struggle the most because adaptation is where I think G2 is the strongest.
Yeah, best of ones are tricky. Rekkles, what do you think of your G2 mates?
I think I'm a bit biased because every time we play them, both on stage and in LCS, I mean in scrims, we've had a lot of success. So I don't really feel like the same, I think, as everyone else feels about them winning the split and all that again. But definitely, like, G2 is probably our best representative because they have been around before, like they've been to Worlds before as a group, they've been to MSI together as a group, so they have the experience needed to be able to get through a stage like this. But yeah, as they said, best of ones is not their friend, so it might be tough. But
we'll see. Logically, you would say G2 is the best representative. Do you guys think that in Fnatic, with some of the experience you guys have on the roster and the ceiling that you might have, you guys could grow into being the best hope for Europe throughout the tournament?
I mean, I think it's possible for both us and Misfits, but it's just hard to call either of us like the best team in Europe when G2 has just been so dominant for so long, and they've been there before and they know, what needs to be done to get through the stage. So yeah, it's just hard to call it for anyone else, but definitely we can be like someone that people will have to look out for. But with us being a pool 3 as well, it might be a bit unlucky in the group draw. You never really know.
Hey, if you do great, you have a tough group and you get through that, then the road is open.
Origin did the same. They went pool 3 and they still made it, so I still have hope.
And that was the year where we had both Fnatic and Origin in the semi-finals, so everything can happen. Gilius, when I said Fnatic could grow throughout the tournament, you definitely nodded. Do you think that's a possibility?
I think our best team out of Europe will be Fnatic in Worlds, just because of G2's past in international tournaments and the group stages. I don't have much hope in Misfits, personally, but I think G2 and Fnatic will be teams to look out for from Europe.
So Misfits obviously 1 year plan. They did make it. Yamato, do you agree with Gilius or are we underestimating them?
I think I have to agree. I think they're good at reading patches and understanding very quickly what is the best. But I think coming into the World Championship, everyone's going to have a lot of time to prepare. So this advantage is no longer their only advantage. Like, then you have to start looking at star power, at mechanical players, and this tournament is stacked. So that is when it comes into questions. And I just feel like they will falter on that point.
Yeah, it is stacked. It's also Misfits in this lineup. It is their first year, Rekkles. So what should their expectations be, you think, in this tournament?
I mean, for my first year, I didn't make it out of groups. And I think it was maybe a bit weird of me to think that I would get out of groups. I'm not really sure. So I don't think they should really expect either. I mean, obviously, they should try their hardest. But it's just when you look at these teams, you don't really think of Misfits as a team to make it to top 8. That's just how it is.
So hopefully, or maybe all the other teams definitely underestimate them, and then they can make a magical run. You say the first time. How much what would you say is the biggest change in Rekkles as a player since the first time you stepped on that stage and now going back?
I think I'm just more calm, more chill. I think before I was really like hot on my heels, sort of. You know, if ever something went wrong, I would just panic and I didn't know what to do. And then I would think like, what if we don't win this game? Then this will happen, and you never really stop. You know, it just keeps on going until you're out of groups. So I think I'm much more chill now. And if anything, this is like a time for me to be able to lead my team to Worlds. Like I should be able to use my experience to my advantage or to our advantage, and to get through play-ins and then maybe pull an Origin. Never really know, but yeah, I definitely feel much better about this Worlds than before.
Great, I have a question. Can it happen that Fnatic ends up with the first seed of China?
If you look at Fnatic, yeah, they totally could, of course, because they could end up in a group with...
That would be nice, right?
Flash Wolves.
Yeah, that's where Flash Wolves, I guess,
Flash
will be
Wolves,
optimal for us,
RNG.
since we cannot get GT.
Wait, that's insane.
Yeah.
If it's Flash Wolves or China, then...
It's
easy. No, not easy, but you can win, you know?
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, I still have like good hopes for this tournament for us.
So you think that LPL first seed and Fnatic would be the worst case scenario? I kind of feel like any of these, everything seems...
I mean, yeah, SKT, Samsung, Longzhu, these teams are scary, but...
Yeah. I think if you get Flash Wolves and a Korean team, then that's a group of death right there.
I'm just trying not to get too much into it, you know, because I want to focus on play on
Definitely.
playing
Let's hide this from Rekkles. First,
but yeah, I get your point.
If we take a step back, though, biggest contenders here, obviously SKT is in that pool too for this time around. Longzhu looks very impressive as well. So what are we thinking? Is anyone but SKT winning this year, Yamato?
I think Longzhu, like in the series, sure, they beat SKT and things are going to look a lot different coming into a tournament. SKT have a history of preparing very well, but Longzhu, I feel like they took the meta to the next step. Everyone's playing tanks. They're playing the kind of carnivore champions that like to eat these tanks up, and they did it very well. They're willing to play the Talia, which was on a different patch. Sure got nerfed, but I think they're willing to play those counter matchups, take those massive risks that if something goes wrong, the game is over, but they're willing to play that, and I think that's a big thing for Longzhu.
I think Longzhu and SKT are looking like the best teams coming into the tournament, but I think SKT will come out ahead because the mid laner of Longzhu, BDD, I don't know, he's like 18 or 17 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he never played internationally, so I don't know what to expect from him. Like, I don't think that such a young rookie is going to come in and just destroy everyone in Worlds. So
that's what happened with Faker.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Faker is something special. Faker.
I mean, that's where you separate the champions from the not champions, you know? If we think of our examples, for instance, we had Febiven and MSI 2 years ago. Fantastic versus Faker, for instance. So this is where we'll see it, and the potential is huge.
Febiven did really well until a point, right? Like, they got knocked out in the end. Like, if you...
Yeah, they didn't win MSI.
I mean, yeah. That's what I think. Like, Longzhu will, of course, have the chance to make finals. I think so. But winning the whole thing, we will see.
We will see, but it will be very interesting Worlds. Gilius, obviously, next year you're on this graphic here, or...
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
It was very calm. You were very calm the last couple of days. Well, we'll see. Well, thank you guys very much for talking to me. Of course, my analyst and Rekkles, thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you in China at the World Championship, and that will do it from us here in Berlin. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. It's the last show from our studio this year, and you'll be able to join us for Worlds with the play-ins starting in 2 weeks already. Have a great night, and we'll see you in China.
nice to have as well. Puts Fnatic in a bit of a pickle if they want to go for never mind. Aurelion soul time. Well, Exhaust is down. Nuclear running for his life. Rekkles hungry for the kill. Is this going to be the first blood taken down? He's getting his hands on it again, and it's looking good. Moving for more. That's the second kill. Comment of legend. Both carries are fighting together. Jesiz in the middle of everything. Shockwave pulls back, but it's only going to hit a tank. It does not matter. Eyes on Rekkles. He is still up. Feast does not matter. All of Fnatic just doing whatever they want. This H2K lineup. That's going to be the triple. H2K had a few shots. They fought back once or twice, but it was not enough here in game one. Fnatic moving forward. They're going to take the edge in this series. Miasma, is he going to block the entrance? 2K, that's going to be brought down. He does get it! Broxah! That's the hero Fnatic needs, but now they have to face the fight.
Nice, guys. Nice.
Good job. Just like scrims, guys.
sOAZ is here for a meal, but it's going to be Rekkles ripping through the towers. It's going to be Fnatic finding a way to turn it around. And while sOAZ goes for the cheeky 1v1, the team is just looking to end the game. Fnatic will move up 2-0. Back Chei is now in trouble, and it looks like he will drop. The heal comes out. Rekkles, flash forward. Jesiz moving in. First blood for the Janna. Stack will get locked up. He's just going to use the cleanse. Slow and steady onto Jankos. Lots of... Oh.
Look at the face of frustration there on Jankos.
Doing what he can to keep moving forward in the fight. H2K retreating strong as 5. So much damage, but no, he wants to turn it back. Nuclear still hitting the backline for free. Shen blocking what he can. Rekkles is firing back. Caps is firing back. Febiven is running for his life. He's looking to get the bounces. He's looking to keep it going. He wants to go to Worlds.
23.5 minutes. Fnatic are going to take the 3-0.
And it was not choking for H2K. It was Fnatic proving themselves worthy of that spot in Worlds. It is the 3-0. It is the 3rd seed. It is Fnatic back on the world stage.